Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
How you doing? How you all doing today? You should be able to see the PowerPoint here in a few seconds. You probably see the video right now. Let me get the PowerPoint up here. Should see it in a few seconds. Let me know when somebody see it. We're going to go ahead and get started. Do you all see it?
I bet he's able to.
Is that it?
Actually true. What?
You don't see it?
Yes.
It's a lot of back noise. Oh, what did you say? You saw it? You see it?
Yes, I see it.
Okay. All right. All right. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and have prayer. Okay. Dear Father in heaven, we come before you this day. We thank you for your grace and for your mercy and your love. We pray you be with us this evening as we go through your word here in Leviticus 27. Pray that your words be with us and that your blessings be upon us and that the words that I speak be your words and the words that we talk about it be pleasing to you. We thank you and we give you all the praise in your son's name. Amen. Okay. So we go over to Leviticus 27. We're going to go ahead and just read the whole entire chapter. There's 34 verses. So I'm going back into them anyway. So let's just read the whole chapter. So there's 34 verses, so people could take turns reading. Somebody wants to read the first 8 and then next 8 and so on and so forth.
Okay, Leviticus 27. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When a man shall make a singular vow, the person shall be for Yahuwah by thy estimation. And thy estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. And if it be a female, then thy estimation shall be 30 shekels. And if it be from 5 years old even unto 20 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. And if it be from a month old even unto 5 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 5 shekels of silver, and for the female thy estimation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if it be from 60 years old and above, if it be a male, then thy estimation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. But if he be poorer than thy estimation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall value him according to his ability that vowed shall the priest value him.
But if it be poorer than thy estimation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall value him according to his ability that vowed shall the priest value him. And if it be a beast, whereof men bring an offering unto Yahuwah, all that any man giveth of such unto Yahuwah shall be Kodesh. He shall not alter it, nor change it, a good for a bad, or bad for a good. And if he shall at all change beast for beast, then it and the exchange thereof shall be Kodesh. And if it be any unclean beast of which they do not offer a sacrifice unto Yahuwah, then he shall present the beast before the priest. And the priest shall value it, whether it be good or bad, as thou valuest it. Who art the priest, so shall it be. But if he will at all redeem it, then he shall add a fifth part thereof unto thy estimation. And when a man shall sanctify his house to be Kodesh unto Yahuwah, then the priest shall estimate it, whether it be good or bad, as the priest shall estimate it, so shall it stand. And if he that sanctified it will redeem his house, then he shall add the fifth part of the money of thy estimation unto it, and it shall be his. And if a man shall sanctify unto Yahuwah some part of a field of his possession, then thy estimation shall be according to the seed thereof. An homer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver.
If he sanctify his field from the year of Jubilee, according to thy estimation, it shall stand. But if he sanctify his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon unto him the money according to the years that remain, even unto the year of the Jubilee, and it shall be abated from thy estimation. And if he that sanctified the field will in any wise redeem it, then he shall add the fifth part of the journey of thy estimation unto it, and it shall be assured to him. And if he will not redeem the field, or if he have sold the field to another man, it shall not be redeemed anymore. But the field, when it goes out in the Jubilee, shall be holy unto Yahuwah as a field devoted. The possession thereof shall be the priest. And if a man sanctify unto Yahuwah a field which he have bought, which is not of the field of his possession, then the priest shall reckon unto him the worth of thy estimation, even unto thy year of the Jubilee, and he shall give thine estimation in that day as a holy thing unto Yahuwah. In the year of Jubilee, the field shall return unto him of whom it was bought, even to him to whom the possession of the land did belong.
Okay, whoever wants to read those last verses can read them.
That's what they
Okay,
Start with 25.
and all thy estimation shall be according to the shekel of the sanctuary. 20 gerahs shall be the shekel. Only the firstlings of the beast, which should be Yahuwah's firstling, no man shall sanctify it, whether it be ox or sheep. It is Yahuwah's. And if it be of an unclean beast, then he shall redeem it according to thine estimation, and shall add a fifth part of it thereto. Or if it be not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to thy estimation. Notwithstanding, no devoted thing that a man shall devote unto Yahuwah of all that he hath, both of man and beast, and of the field of his possessions, shall be sold or redeemed. Every devoted thing is most holy unto Yahuwah. None devoted, which shall be devoted of men, shall be redeemed, but shall surely be put to death. And all the tithe of the land, whether the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is Yahuwah's. It is holy unto Yahuwah. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto Yahuwah. He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. These are the commandments which Yahuwah commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai.
Thank you all for reading that for me. As you can see, there is quite a bit in this. There's quite a bit here that we need to talk about. And
Brother Brush, before you continue, were you showing a PowerPoint on YouTube?
it's not showing.
I'm not seeing, if you're showing a chart, I'm not seeing it. I just see the
Yeah, ordinance part
The ordinance.
9. Ordinance part 9, right?
part 19, but I
19.
don't know if you were showing a chart.
I mean, you do see the picture of the little of the gallows there, right? With the ordinance part 19.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the only one I have on right now.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't flipped it over yet to any of them. So I want to go ahead and have prayer again. And we're going to try to get through this tonight. If we can't, then we may have to come back to finish it tomorrow. So let me just go ahead and have prayer. Father in heaven, we come before you this day again. We ask that your words to be spread amongst your people as we listen and as we talk and as we present this chapter here in a manner that's pleasing and acceptable to you. We thank you how you have brought us through these 26 chapters thus far and how you have brought us here today. What a wonderful lessons that
Consider
we've
the chair
had.
over there. No, consider the chair. You want to sit in the chair? Sit in the chair. No, you can't go in the kitchen.
Mute your phone. Mute your phone, Denise. We pray that you continue to watch over us and guide us and strengthen us, we pray. In your son's name. Amen. Okay. So, let's go back. As I mentioned, we got a lot to cover here. So here in this chapter 27, you mentioned the very last verse in verse 34 where it says, these are the commandments which Yahuwah commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai. This reading that verse right there, it's really talking about more than just what we've been doing here in this chapter. It is, of course, it's talking about the whole entire Leviticus. Everything that's being mentioned here in Leviticus and wherever else that Yah gave them in Mount Sinai. Because as I mentioned, there's other ordinances that they're all not necessarily here in Leviticus, but the bulk of them, as I said before, are here. So when it mentions that last verse, this definitely, all of Leviticus is part of that. So here, the scriptures are directing us in the beginning here, directing us concerning vows and voluntary service and free will offerings of their mouths and devotion and things of that sort. And we know that the heart of men, according to the scriptures, over in Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11, we know according to the scriptures, it says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. You know, this is the thing we talk about sometimes. Every now and then to bring it up, the fact that, you know, when we do things wrong now, if y'all was to strike us every time we did something wrong, I bet you people would be straightening up quick. See, that don't happen now. See, because the mercy that Yah has given us through his son enabled us to come back and ask for, repent, confess, forgiveness. There's no eye for an eye or any special offerings or anything regarding, in this case, we're talking about vows. We're going to talk about vows. You had to make, vows, and there was a certain estimation of what the cost of vows were at the time. Just keep in mind, they're talking about this stuff here in Leviticus. Yahushua hadn't came yet. So this is all, this estimation of costs for vows, for ages, and all this stuff here is more of just kind of a cover. I always just say it's a covering. I like to use the word covering. Because when Yahushua come, the Ruach is really going to be working in our hearts and our minds to a lot of this that we won't be doing anymore from the standpoint of ordinances. But there are some that we will. There are some that all of them pretty much have some Ruach meaning to them that we can get out of it. So perhaps, when I look at this, there's people like, I'm going to call them some serious people that, in every group of people, in every congregation of people, you always got a few people there that's serious, that's really serious. The scriptures in some cases use the word devout. You got some people that's really seriously devoted people that really, put their heart and soul into what they believe in dealing with Yah here. And there's others who more lackadaisical, some don't, you just go through the motion, and there's a little bit of all that there. Many of them seen Moses come, they saw him come down from out of the mountains. And they may have had us when they saw him come down, and of course most of them didn't. They was afraid because he lit up because he was in the presence of the Almighty, and they really wanted Moses to speak to Yah, and they couldn't do it, and all this kind of stuff. But even amongst them, you probably had some that, that were enthusiastic. Because all of them, for the first time, all of them, they had never seen anything like that before at Mount Sinai, dealing with the presence of Yah. So that was all new to all of them. So I say that to go into this thing dealing with vows. There's about three major categories here in this chapter here, with the first category being multiple subtitles, where I just call it A, B, and C. A, you got like basically 4 subtitles to A, and then you got B and you got C. But I'll explain each one of these in a minute, the subtitles. Yah, he would accept the vows that people give to them. He would accept the offerings, whatever they give to them. He would accept it. And the reason why, because he knows how man, I'm going to say man representation of all of us, he knows how man is apt to sin. And because he's apt to sin, that means he has to repent. And the form of repenting is like, in this case, like bringing a vow. And we're going to go through this vows of, which I look at as being given mercy. And his form of doing it, because see, his son hadn't died yet. Keep that in mind. His son had not came down and died yet. So there's some still things that's being done in the old covenant that won't be done anymore when Yahushua comes, because he took care of that. So when I look at the 3 things here that this chapter is covering, the very first one I'm calling A, subtitle A1, the law concerning what is sanctified to Yah, dealing with persons. This is vows. Second thing dealing with, same thing dealing with vows for cattle, whether they're clean or unclean animals. Third one is the vows dealing with houses and land. The third thing is dealing with there was an exception of the firstlings also. So that actually covers all the way down to verses from 2 all the way up to verse 27, basically. And then verses 28 and 29 deals with the concerning what's considered devoted, the difference between the devoted and the vows. And then the last thing is verses 30 to 33 is concerning tithes. So I want to look at all these if we can. If not, that's okay. We can finish the rest of them tomorrow, Yah willing. But we'll start off with this first one. And as usual, you guys, if you got anything, just bring it forth, whatever you may have. Because I'm sure you might have some questions or comments. If I don't have an answer for you tonight, I'll get an answer for you. But hopefully, should be able to get things answered for you tonight. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that. I just switched the slide, so you all should see it. So this is the part of the law concerning singular vows, which the Yah did not expressly insist on. Yet, if they were consistent with and comfortable to the general precepts, he would be well pleased with it. He'd be well pleased with them bringing vows to him. We should not only ask, what must we do, but what may we do for the glory and the honor of Yah. Scriptures tell us, if you go to Isaiah 32:8, got a lot of text as usual, 32:8, and see what it says there in 32:8. That word stand in there means to arise, abide, to accomplish. So the verse says, but the liberal devises liberal things, and by liberal things shall he stand. And so those individuals that's really coming before Yah with vows, and to give you an example of somebody that's coming and say, Yah, I'm making a vow that I don't fight with this person anymore, that, don't argue with this person anymore. And that's a vow that I'm making. They made vows for all kind of things. There's all kind of different vows where now we just, we get on our knees and we just pray, and then we ask Yah to help us not to fight anyone. But then if our brothers have aught against us, and of course the new covenant tells us we need to go before them and, and get it worked out. Here, if there's certain things that you have that you've done and you wanted to be eradicated out of your life, or there's something that, is just not right in your life, and you want to make a vow before Yah. And I got some text, a major text about vow, and that I'll bring up here shortly. So we want to serve Yah in good fashion, in good heart, sincerely, dedicated. That's where we want to do that. He does expect us to come before him, like now, for example. He does expect us to come before him and to honor him. And he is willing and just to forgive us for the things that we do. He also sheds much, much, much mercy for us. So I want to divert for a minute here and go to the Levites, for example. And you see the slide up there that shows, I think you guys can see the slide, but it shows the Levites. This is the priesthood chronology, you know, and you can see that it all comes from, of course, Jacob had his son Levi, and then Levi, of course, had Kohath, the Kohathanites. And the verses are right there. We don't have to go there, but you can take a screenshot of something of it. The Kohathanites had those 4 sons: Amram, Izhar, I can barely read that, Hebron, and Uzziel. And then out of, let me pull that up so I can see that better. Out of Amram, he had Aaron and Moses, of course. But then out of Moses is where the priest and the high priest linkage come out of. That's where you get them out of. And then also, if you go to Numbers chapter 4, you will see there where the care of the sanctuary was by the Levites. So as you see that little note that you hear me say all the time, is that all priests were Levites. But all Levites weren't priests, as you can see here. All these ones that don't have priesthood, the only one listed in priesthood was Aaron. So you got all these Levites. And if you go to Numbers chapter 4 again, it gives you a breakdown what all of them responsibility was in the sanctuary. It started with the movable sanctuary and it moved to the constructed sanctuary or temple that Solomon built. So the law concerning what was sanctified to Yah, we find in verses 2 through 8. And as you recall, this past Sabbath, I mentioned about Genesis 49:7, if you all remember, talking about Jacob and how he was cursed, not Jacob, but how he cursed, a curse was put upon Simeon and Levi. And because of their cruelty and their anger, and how they killed the sons of Sheshach because they took advantage of their sister. And they took it out and killed all the sons, all of them there. So Yah told them, I will, through Jacob, I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. And we read Sabbath how Joshua 19:1 talks about Simeon, but the one I was focused on was more so Levi. Joshua 21:41 and all of chapter 21 and also verses 1 to 3. I'm going to read them because we had read them this past Sabbath. But those 2 lands were divided up. Simeon was divided amongst Judah, and the children and Levites were divided amongst all the other tribes, and they had what they would call cities. They had cities within the children of Israel, and I believe it was 42 or 48, I think it was. So that's one thing that played the role with the Levites in here. But there was something else that happened, because the question is asked, why did Yah pick the Levites? Why not pick some of these other, why he didn't pick some of these other tribes? And the scriptures, from what I've seen, doesn't give you a direct answer. But it does give us something that implies this, pretty much. If you go over to chapter 32. And
Of what?
Of Exodus. I was going to say it. Chapter 32 of Exodus, verses 26 to 29. Chapter 32, verses 26 to 29. I'm going to read that, and I want you to see what it says. Then this is during the time when they built that golden calf when he came down out of the mount. And it says, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me, And all, not part, but all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. And he said unto them, Thus saith Yahuwah Yah of Israel, Put every man in his sword by his side, and go in out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi, verse 28, the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. For Moses has said, Consecrate yourself today to Yahuwah, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day. What stood out to me in these 4 verses was the very first verse, because we know that the tribe that all these tribes, those 3,000 people that were killed, were not the whole entire children of Israel. We know that. So there had to be children of Israel that stood on the Lord's side from other tribes. But the key word to me here is that all the sons of Levi did. That key word, all. All has an importance in the scriptures. Just like when we talk about he's able to forgive us of all our sins. That word all has a key, it has a key meaning to it. And that's the thing that resonates with me. It wasn't just some of the sons of Levi, it was all the sons. So out of all the children of Israel that was there, all the representation of the 12 tribes there, all the sons of Levi stood on the side of the Lord. And that always triggered me to believe that has a big impact on why Levites were chosen as Yah's people. I mean, so far as the ministry, they always his people, but as far as conducting the ministry. That's just my take on that.
I got something else.
You got something else? Okay.
Like in Genesis 29, 34, when Leah had Levi, it said, and she conceived again and bare a son, and said, Now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name was called Levi. And then Levi's name means attached.
Attached. Okay. What is the H reference for that?
H3878.
H what?
3878.
3878.
Yeah. Attached or joined unto.
Attached. Yeah, and I think that, if my memory serves me right, I think when you put all their names together, Levi, because all the names they all go into a paragraph, and I've read it before, and I think, and now when you say that, I kind of remember that now. Attached, because I think Levi's name had men attached, but I don't remember right off the top of my head how all the words were put together. I can find it right now because I'm not in front of my other computer, but I can find it. But is Genesis 29 what verse?
34.
34. Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. So that's in addition. Okie doke. So the Levites held a significant role in the worship and the praise practices of ancient Israel, as outlined in the Old Covenant. They did. In the temple, only the priests were allowed to enter the Holy of Holies or in the temple. The Hebrew Bible states, or scriptures state, that only the descendants of Aaron could function in the priestly role within the temple. So there was at that time, it was not necessarily anything called the court of the Gentiles in the original tabernacle, in that movable tabernacle and stuff. There was nothing called the court of the Gentiles. If you read Acts 21, go to Acts 21. Go to the New Covenant in Acts chapter 21. Acts chapter 21. Verses 28, 29. Just to give you an idea, they were trying to accuse Paul of doing something like that, bringing Gentiles in. You look at verse 28 and 29, it says, crying out, men of Israel, help. This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people. This is talking about Paul. And the law, against the people and the law. And this place, rephrase that. This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people and the law and this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple and have polluted this holy place. Verse 29. For they had seen before with him in the city of Trophimus an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple. See, it's all assumption. Just because, if you all remember, see, they already had problem with the Jews witnessing to outsiders other than Jewish. So they see Paul witnessing to what we would consider someone outside of a Jew, in this case a Gentile or another nation. They immediately believe because you talking to him, you brought him into the temple. Paul didn't do that. Suppose. See, that's how people, that's why assumptions is bad. Assumptions can be really bad, you know, when you assume things. Yes. Somebody said something?
No, I'm sorry, blowing my nose.
Oh, okay. So, all of Israelites could enter the courtyard of the tabernacle to bring sacrifices to the altar. Obviously, they had to do that in order to bring those burnt offerings and peace offerings and sin offerings and trespass offerings. But there was no tour or no guided tour or anyone could, people could come inside the tabernacle and even look at it. Let's go in there. However, anyone could make a vow for whatever reason, but they were held to that vow. I want you to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 4. And some of y'all might be familiar with these verses here. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 4 and 5. Chapter 5, verse 4 and 5. Some of y'all might be familiar with this one. I know you probably are. I believe you probably didn't heard it before. When thou vowest a vow unto Yah, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Verse 5. Better is it that thou should have not vowed than that thou should have vowed and not pay. The case is here for the person. This is dealing with persons to vow to Yah by a singular, like a singular vow. That's what I think that's what it called it. I mean, go back to Leviticus. Back to Leviticus 27. As I mentioned before, the reason why we were going through all these chapters of 27, because eventually we got to, and prayerfully this weekend, we can kind of break down all these chapters that we done went through in Leviticus and compare it, and we'll see where we stand with it in the new covenant. That's the whole purpose of going through all these 27 chapters. So, going back to 27, so I'm going to read the very first one again. Well, I'm going to read the beginning of 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, and say to them, when a man shall make a singular vow, the persons shall be for the Lord, for Yahuwah, the key word, by thy estimation. And all of you all can know what estimating is. Everybody pretty much know what estimating is. It's pretty much the same here too as well, estimating something. So, it's broken down. Yah breaks it, he breaks it down for us. So I'm going to say, let me read this first. Start with verse 3. And thy estimation, so he's telling them, shall be of the male. Now, what we read here is what Yah gave Moses in Mount Sinai. That's what that last verse. This is what we're reading. All this stuff we've been reading is what he gave him in Mount Sinai. So verse 3, and thy estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old, even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. Okay? And if it be a female, then thy estimation shall be 30 shekels. And if it be for 5 years old, even unto 20 years old, then the estimation shall be of a male 20 shekels. And for the female 10 shekels. And if it be for the month old or infant, basically, even unto 5 years old, then thy estimation shall be of 5 shekels, male 5 shekels of silver. And for the female, thy estimation shall be for 3 shekels of silver. And if it be for 60-year-old and above, if it be a male, then thy estimation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. In verse 8, but if he be poorer than thy estimation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall value him. In other words, the priest shall estimate what it should be. According to his ability, that vow shall the priest value him. So the priest going to make a determination on a poor person based on what that person is. Because the priest probably knows about the person. Even if he don't know about the person, he'll be the value based on that person's circumstances. So every poor person wouldn't necessarily be the same. But the priest would be the one still valuing it. Okay? So, continue going through it. So, for as much as dealing with the Levites again, we know that the Levites in themselves don't have to make any vows necessarily for anything doing in the sanctuary. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The case is here, okay? In verse 2, it says that a singular vow is what is estimated by it. And then we went through what these estimates and what they are. Okay. Uh-oh. Hold on a second, guys. My thing came off. Hold on a second. This thing came off here. Okay. If a man, remember earlier I mentioned, there's other works to be done. There's works to be done out in the courtyard, for example. They say if a man consecrate himself or a child to do the service of the tabernacle, the courtyard, to be employed there in some inferior office, as sweeping the floors, sweeping outside, from all the ashes, carrying out ashes and running of errands outside the courtyard or whatever it may be, whatever menial, I ain't gonna say menial because they all that menial, all this stuff is important because it's Yah's work. But all the stuff that's contained in the temple, in the sanctuary, that only the Levites could do, everybody else can do anything else that would help in the promotion of Yah's work. So that's why none of this stuff wasn't important. Everything was important. You don't want to have the ashes and all this stuff just building up, and stuff is not taken care of even in the courtyard. You had people also cleaning. You may have some cleaning of some of these cloths. You had different things going on. So the people outside, the Levites, could also make a vow that I'm going to sweep the floor, or I'm going to take up the ashes, or I'm going to clean the linen cloths that goes around that goes around the outer court, or I'm going to maintain the outer door, the door that leads into the outer court. Whatever the vow is, Yah graciously accept the vow in goodwill. Go with me to 2 Chronicles. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 6. 2 Chronicles chapter 6. See, I got the right one. No, I got first. 2 Chronicles chapter 6. Chapter 6. And look at verse 8. You all remember David wanted to build the temple, but because he shed so much blood, Yah didn't allow him to do it. He said it would come from his son Solomon. But look what Yah said to him, though. Chapter 6, 2 Chronicles 6:8. But Yahuwah said to David, my father, for as much as it was in thine heart to build a house for my name, thou didst well in that it was in thine heart. So Yah said what is in our heart to want to do good for him is great. He may, I'm saying like now, for example, if it's in our hearts to do something for someone, but it's not in Yah's will that it be done, he may not, or it could be done, but maybe he have somebody else to do it, or whatever it may be. It's still a good thing that is in your heart to be willing to want to do it. And this is what Yah is saying. It's a blessed thing for it to be in your heart to want to do this. It reminds me of that Philippians 4:8. So whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good, if there be any virtue, be any praise, think on these. That's what that kind of reminds me of in the new covenant, saying that. But for as much as he had no occasion to use their service about the tabernacle, again, the whole tribe of Levi being appropriated to the use of it, the tabernacle, those that were thus vowed were to be redeemed, others not the Levites. This is not the Levites. And because the Levites were his. That was his ministry. Those were his priests. So they are his. They couldn't do any redeeming of anything. That because he's theirs. So, and when we talk about redemption, we talk about redeemer, like redeeming like kinsman or ransom or delivery or purchase. Any that can be done for the employee for the repair of the sanctuary or other use of it. Go over with me to 2 Kings. Go to 2 Kings chapter 12. Go to 2 Kings chapter 12 for an example and look at verse 14 to 15. And 14 to 15. But they gave that to the workmen and repaired therewith the house of Yahuwah. Moreover, they reckoned not with the men, you had to read the rest of it before that, into whom hand they delivered the money to be bestowed on workmen, for they dealt faithfully. They dealt faithfully. So, what it appears here is that the vows, the single vows, based on age, based on where you fall at in age, that vow is worth so much. It's estimated for so much. Whatever the age of it. In this case, if it's a female that's from 20 to 60 years old, her vow is worth 30 shekels. And I'll explain a little later what a shekel is. I'll explain what a shekel is. Give you, so you have an idea what a shekel. I think I'll be able to explain it to you. I got it written down. I think it's going to come up soon, I guess. Explain to you what an actual You know what? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find where I got this written down. And I can tell you now what the shekel is. See if I can find it here. I got a lot of pages here, guys. I wrote down stuff. So I got to find it here. I've got so many pages. I think I found it here. I think. Okay. A shekel. Now in the New Testament, I didn't have it for the Old Covenant, well, yeah, I got the weight and everything for the Old Covenant. In the Old Testament times, a shekel was a standard unit of weight, approximately 14.5 grams of silver. So the shekel of the sanctuary was equal to 20 garrets, and one garret equals 1/20th of a shekel. So 20 garrets equal 1 shekel, according to verse 25 that we would eventually get to talk about. So in New Testament time, a shekel was a common silver. They used it as a common silver coin, weighing 1 shekel, which is about 0.4 ounces or 11 grams. So 3,000 shekels equal 1 talent. And 1 talent in weight was 75 to 100 pounds in weight. But in currency, it was worth 6,000 denarii, and 1 denarii equals about $20. So the heaviest and the largest unit of measurement for weight and value in the scriptures is the talent. So a shekel is basically 20 garrets. And they equal one shekel. 1 shekel equal 20 garrets. And we're actually, I think we're going to be talking more about the garrets and stuff, because we're going to be talking about the omers and the because there's some other measurements that we need to cover as well. So I'm trying to wait till I get to that part before we start talking about all that. But yeah, there's some other ones we need to cover. So let me see where we at here. So,
Hey, Jim,
yes,
I want to go back to where he was talking about the heart, how Yah was saying if you want to do something and it's on your heart, he would receive it as a good thing. And I just want to, he's the only one that can know what's in your heart.
right, that's right. And what's
So
that?
that makes sense that he can say what's on your heart. If it's on your heart, I will accept it, because he's the only one that really knows what's on your heart.
He's the only one. He's the only one that can do that. This whole vow thing that we're talking about soon, and when we get to the devotion, the same thing. All this is pertaining to Yah. This don't have anything to do with what you're doing to man. This is all devoted to him.
Okay.
So yes, you're correct, Grady. That's correct. So we went through, like I say, 1 through 8, 7, pretty much give us the breakdown of what it is, as far as it is nothing unique other than what the amount of money or the amount of worth dealing with money, because this is just talking about money, this part right here. We're going to be talking about some other things in a minute. This section from 2 to 8 is just basically talking about the money parts of it. It's talking about the value. I mean, it's still money, but it's talking about the people. The people doing the service themselves, because all this is really dealing with the money. But this section is dealing with what people can do. The vow what the person is doing themselves. Now we get ready to get to something else here in a minute. But Yah say, this is what for a man, this is what for a woman, this is their age, this is how much it's going to be. So when they come with a singular vow, this is what they're going to be doing. This is the vow that they're offering. And God expects them to keep that vow. He has no pleasure in foolishness. So that's really verses 1 through 8. Now we go down here, and I want to go back to, oh, got to move it over here. Okay. Now we're talking about the beast, vow to Yah, cattle, for example, whether clean or unclean. Verses 9 to 13, basically, in those verses. So if it was a clean beast, such as was offered in sacrifice, it must not be redeemed, nor any equivalent given for it. Do you all know why? Why would you think that? Because the clean animals, the animals that didn't have any blemishes or anything, were used for the offerings. They were holy. They were used for the offerings. Now, after it was vowed, it was not to be put to any common use, nor changed upon any second thought, but it must be either offered upon the altar, or if through any blemish it was not meet to be offered, he that vowed it should not take advantage of that, but the priest should have it for their own use, for they were Yah's receivers. See, the priest is acting, because remember now, the high priest on earth was just a type. Yahushua was the antitype. The priest here on earth was the symbolic priest. Yahushua was the real one. He's our real high priest. So it's all symbology here. So therefore, the priests are the ones that is his. It's the priest, not anyone else. Even though this animal now that you bringing may have been found with some type of blemish now, you had made a vow to offer this. You had made a vow to offer this. Therefore, this animal, even though we can't offer it, it is still the priest, which means the priest can still have it. Nowhere nowhere have I seen in the scriptures, if the calf or the lamb had some speck on it or something, I never saw anywhere in the scripture where it said it couldn't eat it. It's still a clean animal. They couldn't eat it, but they couldn't offer it because it couldn't be without blemish for the offering, because the offering itself represented Yahushua, and he himself was without blemish, without sin. So when you continue on, so it teaches us, or it teaches them, caution, and kind of us too, and making vows. Making vows and not keeping them when they are made, for it is a snare to a man to devour that which is holy, and after vows to make inquiries of it. So in other words, to vow you're going to give it to Yah, and then the next thing you do, you sell it to one of your other brothers or something. You can't, go to Proverbs 20, verse 25. See, This thing is breaking the details of it more out now with these offerings. Proverbs 20, verse 25. With the vows, I should say. 20:25. It is a snare to the man who devours that which is holy, and after vows to make inquiry. When you made a vow to donate or give this holy thing for an offering, but then you change your mind and now take that animal and eat it outside the camp without it being offering when it was vowed as holy, as a representation of what Yah says is supposed to be for these offerings, you have done something that's against what Yah say we should be doing. Look at 2 Corinthians. Go to 2 Corinthians 2:9. Not 2:9. 2 Corinthians, I think this is where I want to go. 2 Corinthians 9:7.
Hey, Jim, that's what got Ananias and
Sapphira.
Sapphira in trouble in Acts there, in Acts 5, where they made a vow to do something and they grieved the Holy Spirit.
That's it. That's a good point. And you see, okay, there's no I'm going to jump the gun a little bit here, guys, because Grady just brought that up. Then there was an estimation on what they should bring for a vow that you make. Now, there's no certain amount of money that we need to bring to an assembly or anywhere else for that matter for a vow that we make, we're going to do this. See, read this verse. This verse says, every man according as he purpose in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for Yah love a cheerful giver. So how do you think Yah would feel if you say, I'm going to make a vow to give this to these poor people out here? You make this vow to Yah. Yah, I am going to help these poor people tomorrow. Yah willing, you wake me up, I'm going to help them tomorrow. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. First of all, Yah knows your heart. He already knows your heart. So if you don't do that, what did we just read in Ecclesiastes 5:4-5? What did we just read there? That still applies today. So if people don't think that applies today, I think they fool themselves. If they don't think that Ecclesiastes 5:4-5, when thou vow for vow unto Yah, defer not to pay it, for he have no pleasures in fools, pay that which thou vow. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. That's still effective today. You tell somebody you making a vow to somebody. When you tell somebody, I'm going to do something, I'm going to do this for you tomorrow, and you don't follow through with it, that's the reason why it's foolish. It's a lie. It's a lie. And the scriptures already tell you what a lie is. Lying lips are abominations to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. So making a vow now is just as important as making a vow they made back then.
Mm-hmm. And also, we grew up in a time when a man told another man he was going to do something and they shook hands, that meant something.
That meant something. That don't mean anything no more.
No.
People look you straight in the face and lie to you.
Yep.
And won't miss a beat. Now, if an unclean beast, now go back to Leviticus. If you guys got any questions, any more comments, just feel free, because we tackling this together. It just, as we go along, I just see when you all bring up things like Grady just brought up that right there, It just resonates with the new covenant. When we looked at verse 11, and if it be an unclean beast, of which they do not offer a sacrifice unto Yahuwah, you notice they do not offer a sacrifice, because it has to be clean without blemish, then he shall present the beast before the priest. So, if an unclean beast, it should be used of the priest at such a value, but he that vow it upon paying that value in money, in money, if he wants to redeem that vow, if he vowed it first, then he wants to kind of like go back on his vow. Because God don't want you, that's why y'all don't want you doing foolishness. But if you decide to go back on your vow, he ain't taking your life, but he told them you got to add a fifth to that. You're gonna have if you make a vow and you want to redeem, if I give you this unclean animal, and you decide you don't want the priest to have the unclean animal because it can't be used for offering, and you decide you don't want to do that, you want it back, then you don't get it back for what you got it, what you gave him. You don't get it back from what you got for it. What you have to give him is what you paid, what you got plus 1/5 added onto that. You'll see that as we go through here. It can be redeemed then. That's in verses 11 through 13 when you read, and the priest shall value it. Go back to 11. And if it be unclean beast in which they do not offer sacrifice unto Yahuwah, then he shall present the beast before the priest. 12. And the priest shall value it. So he's going to figure out what it costs, whether it be good or bad. As thou value it, who art the priest, so shall it be. 13. But if he will at all redeem it, speaking of the man, then he shall add a fifth part thereof unto thy estimation. So if the priest gives him, if he gives the priest says I'm just going to use a number. I'm going to say is 1 shekel. Let's just say 1 shekel, which is 20 jarrets. So if it's 20 jarrets for this, and he gives it to him, and the man said, "Oh man, I didn't really want to give him that one because I really need that." Then he then have to give the priest he had to give the priest 1/5 on top of that 20 shekels, which means 1/5 of 20 would be 4. So it'd be 24 jarrets he would have to give him to get the beast back, get the unclean beast back. So that's what Yah did to handle, changing your mind type thing. So here, moving along. Now, we looked at what a person, an individual, in doing their own individual work outside of the sanctuary, how they made vows to do, works like cleaning around, getting up, taking up, shoveling up, and cleaning up the ashes, taking care of the linen cloths and all that kind of stuff. So, any damage done on that, any damage done, even that had to be carefully done, because if our memory serves me right, in Numbers 4, let me make sure before I tell you that, because it seemed to me, I don't remember. On one hand, I remember. On the other hand, I don't. And maybe you guys can help me here. Whether or not, I don't think so. Whether or not the priests, they were required to take care of the boards and stuff. But the boards of the tabernacle and the pillars, I don't think that you guys can validate that for me, because I'm right top of my head. I don't remember, because if the people, the congregation outside of the Levites can take care of things in the courtyard, then that means then that the courtyard pillars, because remember now, I did a whole thing on the sanctuary and how it was built and everything. And the sanctuary also had pillars. It also had sockets. It also had chapiters. It also had the linen cloths. It also had coverings. It had all those things. But the outer court also had sockets, had pillars, had chapiters, had the linen cloths. It had similar things. Had the outside door that was made out of red, yellow, red, white, blue, and purple, which the blue and red meant the purple, right? So if my memory serves me right, the Levites took care of everything with the tabernacle, not the outer court, more so or less. The outer court, taking care of those things, that's where the congregation, the other tribes, because they can come into the outer court anyway. So anyway, moving on to the next thing. And then we just got through talking about clean and unclean animals, how that was to be handled. Now we get ready to talk about the real estate or the land dedicated to the services of Yah. That's covered from verse 14 all the way to 25. That's covered from verse 14 to 25. So, going back to Leviticus 27. Leviticus 27, and looking there, I'm gonna read that verse 14, starting there, and I'm gonna keep reading for a minute here. Let me see. I want to. Yeah, I'm going to read all the way. I'm going to read 14 all the way to 25. And when a man shall sanctify his house to be holy unto Yahuwah, then the priest shall estimate it, whether it be good or bad. See, here's the priest estimating again. As the priest shall estimate it, so shall it stand. And if he that sanctified it will redeem his house, then he shall add the fifth part. Here we go to the fifth part again. Of the money of thy estimation unto it, and it shall be his. And if a man shall sanctify unto Yahuwah some part of a field of his possession, then the estimation shall be according to the seed thereof a homer. A barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver. If he's 17, if he sanctify his field from the year of Jubilee, according to thy estimation, it shall stand. 18, but if he sanctify his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon unto him the money according to the years that remain, even unto the year of Jubilee, and it shall be abated from thy estimation. And if he, 19, and if he that sanctified the field will in any wise redeem it, then he shall add the fifth part of the money of thy estimation to it, and it shall be assured to him. And if he will not redeem the field, or if he have sold the field to another man, it shall not be redeemed any more. Verse 21, but the field, when it goeth out in the Jubilee, shall be holy unto Yahuwah, as a field devoted to the possession thereof shall be the priest. And if a man sanctified unto Yahuwah a field which he hath bought, which is not of the fields of his possession, then the priest shall reckon unto him the worth of thy estimation, even into the year of the Jubilee. And he shall give thine estimation in that day as a holy thing unto Yahuwah. So in the year of Jubilee, the field shall return unto him of whom it was bought, even to him to whom the possession of the land did belong. And all the estimation shall be according to the shekel of the sanctuary. 20 gerats shall be the shekel. Okay, I want to go through this. So let's say a man has a zeal for the honor of Yah. And he just had this, you know how he's just on fire. And he has this zeal. He want to do something for Yahuwah. So he sanctified his house. Making, the house must be valued, but it must be valued by the priest. And the money got by the sale of it was to be converted to the use of the sanctuary, which by degrees came to be greatly enriched with dedicated things. An example, what we're talking about here. Go to 1 Kings 15:15. I know it's a lot of stuff, guys, and some of this we don't have to even too much be concerned about, because when we get to the new covenant, you'll see the reason why we don't have to worry about it. Verse 15 says, and he brought in the things which his father had dedicated, and the things which himself had dedicated into the house of Yahuwah, silver and gold and vessels. Some of them owned a lot of stuff. Some of the children of Israel, that is. Some of them owned a lot of, some of them was pretty rich. And remember the land that they were on. They were in the land of Canaan, filled with milk and honey. That means some of the land, if not all the land, was rich in minerals. So those tribes, remember, they inherited that land. So Yah gave them the inheritance. But remember, who owns the land? Yah owns the land. So it's like they're being strangers, a sojourner in the land that Yah gave them. So that when they were strangers and sojourner in Egypt, they are not to treat, as we mentioned last time, they are not to treat the people, the Gentiles, the people that's around them, or even some of them that was with them, treat them the way they were being treated in Egypt. Because they don't own that land. Yah owns it. He left them as just the keepers of the land. And they couldn't even do that right. They didn't enjoy that much. Because when you go to, we go there all the time, 2 Chronicles 36:21, he had to move them out of the land so that the land wouldn't be defiled. 70 years. He had to keep them out of there. The land kept the Sabbath as long as they wasn't on the land, because they were defiling it. Constantly. And then you see there, it says to him that that's lacking things, the necessities of life, Yah will abate. In other words, Yah is forgiving. He's merciful. He lessens or he removes the estimation. Now that's back in verse 8. But to him that was fickle, see, this is important. Him that was fickle, changing frequently, and being humorous, lighthearted laughter and amusement, and whose second thoughts incline more to the world and his secular interest than his first, Yah he will rise in price for them. Blessed be Yah, there is a way of sanctifying our houses to be holy unto Yahuwah. Do you know that we ourselves can sanctify our homes? We can, our houses should be a sanctuary of Yahushua. Everybody understand that? We get that from John chapter 4. John chapter 4, and eventually we'll read it here. John chapter 4, we are the temples of Yah. So when we come together with like individuals, with your family members in your home, that should be a temple. That should be a dedication. That should be a dedication to Yahuwah. Yahuwah wants our houses to be dedicated to him. He wants it to be dedicated. That commitment, the vow that we make to treat this home like Yah wants us to treat it. Just like back then, they would dedicate things to the upkeeping and the upgrading of the sanctuary and the temple. Remember, they had the sanctuary itself, the tabernacle, the holy and most holy place was mostly made out of gold and silver. And then the outside court was mostly silver and brass. All that stuff, remember, they got it out of Egypt. But they also had that in those lands they were living in, because you know they had all those minerals there. They were rich, not just in the land of milk and honey, but they was rich from the standpoint of wealth. They was filthy wealthy, but they abused it. They abused it greatly. Go over with me to John chapter 4. Go to John chapter 4. I've said this before, but we never can say it enough. Go to John chapter 4 and look there at verses 21 to 24. 21 to 24. It says, Yahushua said unto her, woman, this is dealing with the woman at the well, believe me, the hour cometh when we shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. There's a time we ain't got to come there. Ye worship, ye know not what ye know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in the Ruach and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him. Verse 24, Yah is the Ruach, and they that worship him must worship him in Ruach and in truth. Ruach and in truth. Blessed be Yah. There is a way of sanctifying our houses, to be holy, to be Kadesh unto Yahuwah, without either selling them or buying them. If we in our houses serve Yahuwah, if we serve Yahuwah, and we put away iniquity far from them, and have an assembly in our house, our own individual houses, holiness or Kadesh to Yahuwah is written upon it. It is his, and he would dwell with us in it. So suppose a man should sanctify, and this is back to Leviticus, suppose a man should sanctify some part of his land to Yahuwah, giving it, to the sanctuary, have some part of it, some part of his land as a place where they can worship. They go to worship. Everything, all the worship, listen, they went to the temple to worship, but Yah also had them work. They could worship in their own homes too. But it ain't the same as going up to Jerusalem, like the men had to go 3 times a year. It wasn't like that, or wasn't like going into the temple like that. But they had individual places, people on their property where they could worship. They had worship house places where they worship at. But the main temple was there in Jerusalem. That was the main temple. Yes, indeed. So,
Jim,
yes.
I've always, I never had a problem with, but I guess I don't really understand. What does worshiping Yah in spirit and truth, what does that look like? I'm trying to, can you explain that?
I'm trying to think of an example.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Well, let's just use the commandments, Grady.
Okay.
That's the best way to do that. Let's just use the commandments. Yah said, he said, thou should not commit adultery, correct?
Right.
That's a literal physical. That could be a physical adultery. Okay?
Right.
But Yahushua said that in the Ruach and in truth. So that means that from a Ruach standpoint, that means your thinking is in your heart to have a relationship with a woman that's not yours. That would be in Ruach. That would be, because remember, our lives, our souls is made up of the body and the Ruach.
Yeah.
That means the talking mechanism that Yah communicate us through is through the Ruach, which speaks through our hearts and our minds. So, when we talk about the Ruach and truth, the truth is coming from Yahushua, of course, but the truth is also is Yah. But the Ruach don't have to be a tangible thing. Tangible thing mean it doesn't have to be something you can touch. See, I can commit adultery by touching the other woman. I could physically touch the other woman and commit adultery. Back then, if you did that, we read it over there in Leviticus, I forgot which one it was, 18 or 19, of all those indecent sexual acts.
Yeah.
Those were physical acts.
But when you're saying, now we're going back to the heart. So if you do it in your heart that's without touching her. If you looking at her and wanting her in your heart,
yes,
that's a sin there too.
yes, because the Ruach is, first of all, it's the Ruach. Okay, what is sin? The transgression of the law, right?
Right.
What was the fulfillment of that? Yahushua. He fulfilled that when he said, it has been said of old that those that, if you commit if a man is with a woman, he commit adultery back then by the letter of a divorcement. But I say unto you, whoever lusteth, that's a heart thing.
Yes.
Whoever lusteth after a woman, you ain't even touched the woman. You ain't even seen her.
Yeah.
But you already got it in your heart and mind that you want to do that. You want to do the things that you could do physically. Yah is saying it's more than just the physical adultery. It is also the heart.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So then if it come out of your heart, it's in your mind.
Is without nothing. There's nothing that we do that don't start in the mind. When I say mind, is in your mind and heart. They're all connected.
Yes.
There's
Okay.
nothing. From getting out of your bed to going to the restroom, to going to work, to going to the store, to tying your shoe. No matter what it is, it always starts with a thought first.
Yes.
Always. There's nothing we do without a thought. It's every reaction we have is a thought. I give you another one. The same thing.
You couldn't do it without a thought.
You can't do it without a thought. So when we start talking about in the Ruach, we're talking about the heart, really. We're talking about what gives us life, what gives us breath. The Ruach is what gives us breath. That's what breathes into us, right? So Yah speaks to us through his breath, through the Ruach, through that. See, that's why the law can't, that leads to something else. That's why the law can't save us.
Exactly. Because we can't keep it.
Because we can't keep that. Me going there and telling you, by me telling you, Grady, let me give you another, everybody that's on, let me give you another example of the same thing. By me telling you, well, I kept the commandment, I kept the law, I didn't commit adultery, I never physically touched any woman, but all the time I'm telling you that, every night I'm thinking about that.
Right.
Every night, I'm thinking about that. To the point where I'm actually doing it.
Yeah.
In my mind, I've already committed adultery.
Yes.
That's what it says in the Ruach. See, because the Ruach is what convicts us. And everything that the Ruach convicts us of is what? Truth.
That's right.
So I don't know if that helped any or not, but
That helped a great deal. Because I
that's
always wondered, I could never put that together, worshiping in spirit and in truth. And in other words, you got to be with him. You can't worship him in truth if you don't have it in your heart and in your mind to do it.
what did Yahuwah tell David? I mean, not David. What did he tell Samuel? You look at the outer appearance,
Right.
but man looketh at the heart. What did Yahushua tell? What did Yahushua tell the? Let me give you another example. See if I can find it here in the scriptures. I want to think where's the one? I want to say 15, but I don't know if that's right or not. Yep, that's right. 15. Thank you, Yah. 15. Matthew chapter 15. You remember when the Pharisees was coming, you know, they came to Yahushua, the scribes and Pharisees, and they was complaining about the disciples not washing their hands.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And he said, Yahushua in verse 3 in chapter 15, Matthew says, but he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandments of Yah by your traditions? For Yah commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father and mother, let him die to death. Now he's throwing that law back at them. He said, but ye said, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandments of Yah of none effect by your traditions. And then jump down, it says, in verse 10, he called the multitude, and he said unto them, verse 11, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth defileth the man.
Yeah.
Then jump over to verse 18. No, verse 17. Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever enter into the mouth goeth into the belly and is cast out in the drought? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from where? The heart.
All right. Yes.
And they defile the man. For out of the heart perceiveth evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornication, thefts, false witnessing, blasphemy. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defile not a man.
Yeah.
The heart. The Ruach works through the heart and the mind, because there's nothing you can do without you. Man, they work hand in hand. It starts here and it comes in the heart.
Yes.
But the mind works hand in hand with the heart.
Right.
So, yeah. I hope that helps some.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the only way to do it, was to go to the scripture.
Yeah, what I usually do, I ask Yah, and he never fails me. He never fails me. I mean, when you ask that question, I had to think. I couldn't think of anything right off the top of my head, because the thing was, years ago, he told me, this is what Yah impressed upon me and told me, that whenever you want to explain something, always use analogies if you can. Use
Right.
some type of analogy, something that people can relate to.
Right.
But then I stood up here and I stood up there and prayed, to myself when you asked that question, and I just asked him to give me something here. And I'm telling you, before I can get it out of my mouth good, I had to think. Then he gave it to me. Instead of just giving one, he gave two. He gave three. He gave the analogy and scripture.
Yes.
That's how he operates. Huh?
Bless his name.
Bless his name. And I'm telling you, there's something else too. Yah cannot give us anything. He cannot bring anything into remembrance of our minds if we don't put it there.
Yes.
We have to study. How you going to remember something you ain't got it up there? How you going to remember how to do math if you never did math?
Yeah. That's true.
That's something we got to keep in mind. The same thing applies with Yah's word. How is he going to bring the text and prophecy and all these things to mind if you don't never put it up there? You don't ask Yah to help you. So anyway, you guys don't mind, I like to try to finish this if I can. If some of you all have to leave, then you'll get the rest of it tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, but you can go on YouTube. I don't think we got an hour left though. But I don't think so, but you know how that goes. So, if an inheritance of his father's, here called the field of his possession. Anytime you see it called the field of his possession, remember it was predicated on when they came over into the Canaan land that they had an inheritance. Remember, Yah divided all the tribes up into their land. So when it says of his inheritance, the field of his possession, is talking about the possession of the inheritance of his household, his family, his tribe. Okay, so the land was to be valued by so many measures, sowing of barley. It says there, so much land as would take a homer or a chomer of barley, which contained 10 ephods. Now, if you go to Ezekiel 45:11. Go to Ezekiel 45:11. And it tells you what some of the measurements is. It says the ephod and the bath shall be of one measure, that the bath may contain the tenth part of a homer, and the ephod is the 10th part of a homer. The measure thereof shall be after the homer. Okay, so now I want you to go over. Some people get the homer and the omer, Homer and Omer mixed up, but I want you to go over the Exodus.
I don't understand.
That right there, that verse.
Yeah.
The ephod and the bath shall be of one measure. This, if you can pull up the concordance. Do you have a concordance? Denise?
Yes.
If you could pull up the concordance, for example, and go to that specific one, Ezekiel 45:11. These are just, all this is really talking about is measurements. An ephod, or measure for grain. So an ephod, and of course in here it says that it's an Egyptian deviation, so it probably came from the Egyptian way of doing things. It's a dry measure of quantity equal to 3. See, we're going to keep going down on words. If you look at the outline usage, it says it's 3 seals or 10 omers. The same, and if you want to know what an omer is in gallons or in ounces, it says right there that the liquid measurement of a bath, BATH, is about 9 imperial gallons or 40 liters. So you can always type in an ephod and type in bath, type in those words, and you can get actual measurements compared to the measurements we use today. They didn't use ounces and pounds. Those are English measurements. They didn't use the metric system. The metric system don't use its ounces today. I'm talking about. Right now, we use ounces and pounds and gallons. That's the English measurement. But if you go like over in Europe, and even here, when you look on food, on bottles and containers and stuff, you see stuff says like a 16 ounce of water is 16.9 liters or milliliters, stuff like that. So they use milliliters and liters as a liquid measurement here in this country, and they use it primarily in Europe and some of the other countries. They mostly use the metric system. We use the English system. So back in the days of Hebrew, they had a system back there that they used, and it was neither one of them. So in order for you to be able to look at any of these measurements, and the ephod and the bath is a type of measurement, you have to go back, type in the ephod, and say, ephod, what is it equal to in measurement, in liquid measurement? What is a bath, B-A-T-H? What is it equal to? And you'll be able to see what is equal to in English, a conversion to translate. You follow me? You there? Denise. Uh-oh, she left me.
I'm sorry, I was muted, but yes, I follow you.
Did you follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Whenever the best way to do this, and it's a lot of, and you might find various measurements and different things in here. The best thing to do is always go to the concordance, if you could pull it up. Some things you don't have to use the concordance, but a lot of things you got to use the concordance on, and this is one of them. So when you want to relate it to some English measurement, that's actually the best way. Then you can get a better idea of what it's talking about. So there's a lot of, in the scriptures, a shekel is used almost exclusively to designate monetary value. In the old covenant times, a shekel was a standard unit of weight. I gave it to you earlier. Approximately 14.5 grams of silver. The shekel of the sanctuary was equal to 20 gerets. 1 jeret, I mentioned earlier, equals 1/20th of a shekel. So 20 gerets equal 1 shekel. If you go, let's see, if we go over to 27:25, it tells you that right in there. 27:25, and all thy estimations shall be according to the shekel of the sanctuary. 20 gerets shall be the shekel. Shall be the shekel. So it's telling you there what it equals. If you go, I think go to Exodus 30. Exodus 30 verse 13, I think. Exodus 30 verse 13. If you go to Exodus 30 verse 13, I think you will see it there. Yes. If you look there, Exodus, this is where it was first brought up back in Exodus. This day shall give everyone that passeth among them that are numbered half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. And then it has the parenthesis, the shekel is 20 gerets, what I just mentioned earlier. A half shekel shall be the offering of the Lord. So you're requiring a half shekel in that case there. But you have to, like I say, you got to go in line and do a comparison to what the English is. If it would probably make more sense to you so you can see how much the actual, because you go to somebody and say 20 gerets equal a shekel, they ain't going to know what you're talking about. But if you go tell them that 16 ounces equal a quart, yeah, they'll understand that. 8 ounces equal a cup, yeah, they'll understand that. 128 ounces in a gallon, yeah, they'll understand that. So you would have to basically take those and convert them over so you can get a picture in your mind of how much we're talking about. So, in New Testament times, as mentioned, a shekel was a common silver coin weighing 1 shekel, which is about 0.4 ounces or 11 grams. 3,000 shekels equal 1 talent. Talent equals 75 to 100 pounds. I mentioned that earlier in weight. It equals 6,000 denarii. A denarii. 1 denarii equals about $20. The heaviest of the largest unit of measurement for weight and value in the scriptures is the talent. So a moderate price there in verse 16. And that if it was sanctified immediately from the year of Jubilee, verse 17. But if some years after there was to be a discount accordingly, even at that price, verse 18, and when the value was fixed, the donor might, if he pleased, redeem it for 60 shekels, the homer's sowing, which was with the addition of the fifth part. And now all this stuff is kind of hard. There's a lot of stuff blended in these verses. The money then went to the sanctuary, and the land reverted to him that had sanctified it. But if he would not redeem it, and the priest sold it to another, then at the year of Jubilee, beyond which the sale could not go, the land came to the priest and was there forever. Verses 20 to 21. So what is given to the Lord ought not to be given with a power of revocation. What is devoted to Yahuwah must be his forever by perpetual covenant. So when they donate land, they can't be fooling around with this. They have a certain time frame that they can donate the land, and then if a period of time goes by where the land that has been vowed to, that land then, if it's not sold, that land goes to the priest. So there's so many combinations of things. They had to write all this stuff down. There's no way they remember all this. Everything we're talking about, they had to follow all this. Every single thing that we're talking about in all 27 of these chapters. I mean, from the details from the very first chapter, the burnt offerings, the very detailed, what animals they could use, what animals the poor could use, what feasts could be used, all the sexual sins and all this stuff that they did and didn't do, all that they couldn't mark on themselves. They had to know all that. They had to know about purification. They had to know about when you had a boy or a girl, how long the purification part took. They had to know all that. All that was part of understanding. They had all kind of laws that we already been through. This is part of it. These are part of it. So if the land was his own purchase, so if the man had purchased the land and it came not to him through his ancestors, then not the land itself, but the value of it was to be given to the priest for their uses. That's verses 22 to 24. So it was all kind of rules. I know it's difficult to understand a lot of this, but it boiled down to that when they made vows, they had to keep the vows that they're vowing. And if they want to redeem the vow that they made, they had to pay a fifth part on top of what they paid for it for. That's what they had to do. And in some cases, if time went by, like Jubilee, some time went by, then they were forbidden that they couldn't sell it anymore. It went to the priest. So they had all these guidelines. You remember the other day when we were talking about if a man, I think this week, I forgot when we talked about that quick, about redeeming a person at Jubilee. Yeah, that when we did Jubilee the other day. And redeeming a person. A person could be redeemed. But Yah would like for the person to be, Yah would like the person to get all that worked out, the land to get all worked out. This is what it all boils down to. Yah would like for them to get all that worked out as far as the bondsmen and the bondswomen and all the land that's owned and all. And if you want to dedicate stuff, that's great. You want to make a vow, keep that vow. And if you don't do the vow the way it's supposed to be done, that vow is eventually going to be given, what you vowed is eventually going to be given to the priest because it's the Lord's anyway. So at the time Jubilee, that's why Jubilee is mentioned here. But at the time of Jubilee, if things are not taken care of, everything's going to go basically back to normal anyway. So whoever is in a bondsman state or bondswoman state with their children, their family, they're going to go back to their inheritance. Whatever land is taken and was not taken care of through this process or wherever it may be, it's going to go back to the people that inherited the land. That's the way Yah used to balance it out. So when we get to heaven, it's the same thing. Nobody going to have no more than anybody else. We're all going to be equal in heaven. Yah is not respect a person. And that's what he's saying. And that becomes even more clear to me with this Jubilee. That when Jubilee come, he's saying there's no respect to person, guy. You all couldn't get that worked out. So I'm telling you, at Jubilee year, it's done. It's taken care of. Nobody is to be a bondsman, bondwoman. And then it gets back in that same process again. Then the same 50 years later, Jubilee. Then it gets back in that process again. With bondsmen and bondwomen, owning this land, owning that land, selling this land, selling that land, making this vow, making that vow. It was a continual process. But Yah had his rules back then. He had his rules. So if you look at verse 26 to 27, only the firstlings of the beast, which should be the Lord's firstlings, no man shall sanctify it. Whether it be an ox or a sheep, it is Yahuwah's. And if it be of the unclean beast, then he shall redeem it according to thine estimation, and shall add a fifth part of it thereto, or if it be not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to the estimation. And we know that follows basically verse 11 and 12 of the unclean beast. And we know it says here that everything, the firstlings, all the firstlings, first fruit, firstlings, all that belongs to the Lord anyway. All that belongs to Yahuwah. How you going to sanctify anything that's already his anyway? So it's important for us to understand that when they're making vows, you're not making a vow of the first fruit or the firstlings, because a vow of the firstlings is his anyway. That don't make sense to make a vow of the firstlings. That's why he says only the firstlings of the beast, which should be the Lord's firstlings. No man shall sanctify it, whether it be an ox or a sheep. It is Yahuwah's. You're not going to be trying to kadesh or make anything holy or make a vow to offer this, and it's his already. That's like you trying to sell a house to somebody that's already a person's house. So, 28 and 29. Leviticus 27, 28, 29. Notwithstanding no devoted thing that a man shall devote unto the Yahuwah of all that he have, both of a man and a beast, and of a field of his possession, shall be sold or redeemed. Every devoted thing is most holy unto Yahuwah. None devoted, which shall be devoted of men, shall be redeemed, but shall surely be put to death. Now, see, this devoted thing is different than necessarily the vow thing, okay? So the devoted things were most holy to Yahuwah and could never revert or nor be alienated. They were of the same nature with those sacrifices which were called most holy, which none might touch, but only the priests themselves. The difference between these and other sanctified things arose from the different expressions of the vow itself. If a man dedicated anything to Yah, binding himself with a solemn curse never to alienate it to any other purpose than it was a thing devoted. Other words, if I say, Yah, I am devoting my life to you. Yes, that is a vow. But at the same time, I'm saying that as long as I exist, I'm devoting myself to you. See, individual vows could be dealing with land. That ain't long term. It could be dealing with individuals selling, it could be dealing with beasts. But when you make a devoted vow that says, Father, I am making this vow to you. I'm devoting myself to you. And then you start specifying what you're going to do and not do by the grace of Yah. Remember you saying what you're going to do and not do by the grace of Yah, because you need him to help you not to do these things. But at the same time, he wants us to come to him. So we got to make those choices because we got a free will. So the free will I'm making is Yah. I'm dedicating myself to you. I'm devoting myself to you. I am making this vow to you, and I recognize and understand that it is better not to make a vow than me to sit here and make a vow to be on your side and really not want to be on your side. That's the difference between devoting a vow that's being devoted or just a vow. Either case, it's a vow. And we got to be careful when we make promises that we can't keep. I gave the example earlier of people that go out there making promises and telling people they're going to do this and do that and knowing in their heart they're not going to do it. They're vowing something. They're making a vow. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to meet you tomorrow and I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to do that. And you don't do it. You're in essence making a vow that you're not keeping. And it's a sin because Yah said in your heart, getting back to the Ruach that teaches us all truth, in your heart, you tell them a lie. You're not keeping the vow you just told that person. You're not keeping that. So you're lying. When I think about all this stuff, like what we talk about right now, when I think about all this, I can now see why when Yah says, when you break one, you're guilty of all. Every time we do something that's not right, something else is being affected that's not right. By me just not keeping a vow, he said it's better not to make a vow than to make a vow and not keep it. Okay, so that's over here on the left. All right. I'm going to not keep the vow, but I'm going to lie. So I'm breaking something else. So I'm already not keeping the vow, but then I'm going to not keep the vow by lying. And lying is already an abomination to him. Already transgressed the law. We didn't know the law except the law said thou should not lie. Lying lips are abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly is delight. He tells us that specifically. So that's the purpose. That's the difference of being devoted. Let me give you some examples. Go with me to Joshua chapter 6. Joshua chapter 6. Go to Joshua chapter 6 and verse 17. Joshua chapter 6, verse 17. And the city shall be accursed, even it, and all that are therein to Yahuwah. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. Devoted persons in verse, when it talks about in verse, going back to verse, let's go back to verse Leviticus 27:29. Back to 29. None devoted, which shall be devoted of men, shall be redeemed but shall surely be put to death. So devoted persons were to be put to death, not that it was in the power of any parent or master thus to devote a child or a servant to death, but it must be meant of a public enemies of Israel as well, who either by the appointment of Yah or by the sentence of the congregation were devoted as the 7 nations with which they must make no league with. And that was in Joshua 6:17. Jericho was made up of multiple cities. It was more than just Jericho. There was other cities that was in there as well. So it's important. And let me just give one other example. When these curses came upon them, go to Judges chapter 21. Judges chapter 21, 9 and 10. This is the time where the wives of the tribe of Benjamin, they were supposed to go up to they were supposed to come up to the Lord in Mizpah, and these didn't. These are the tribes of Benjamin. And in verse 9 and 10, for the people were numbered, and behold, there was none of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead there. And the congregation sent thither 12,000 men of valianted, and commanded them, saying, go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the children. They were not supposed to mingle with those children. None of the children of Israel were supposed to mingle with them. But the tribe of Benjamin didn't obey. They didn't do it. So that's where it talks about these men being killed. But the point being is that Yah had told them, that they were not to mingle with them. They were not to take wives of them. You had to read that whole 21. They were not supposed to do that. But they did it anyway. They stayed there, mingled with them instead of going where he told them to go. And then Yah wound up destroying them. And so a curse was brought upon them. A curse was brought upon them, a whole group of people, because of their acts. So it's when we don't keep vows, like then, not keeping what Yah had told them not to do, and not to keep that. You know, if you go back to Exodus, you will see many times how the children of Israel agreed with Yah. They said, we will do, we will do, we will do, we will do. They are vowing to obey. They are vowing to follow his commands. This is the incident where they were cursed because they did not fulfill the vow, and death came upon them because of that. So, I can't stress the importance it is for us to be obedient. I mean, I don't know, it ties so much into what we're talking about right now and how it carries over into the new covenant. That obedience is still important. Yeah, Yah is a wonderful Yah. And that verse that we was mentioning early on, yeah, he don't strike us down dead immediately because we don't do something. Maybe if he did, people would wake up. But he doesn't do that because he's so merciful. His son came down here and died for us that we will understand the purpose of that and fall away from all that foolishness. Making vows we should not make. Making promises that we know in our heart we shouldn't keep. Doing this and doing that. All those things are pertinent today. Ain't none of that been thrown away. Now the process of estimation, 50 shekels or 25 shekels or 10 shekels or 30 shekels or 20 shekels or 5 shekels or 3 shekels for vows, all that stuff is done away with. But the importance of vows themselves, Yah still holds the standard of that. We don't need to be going around here making vows. That's the same thing. That's almost similar to like swearing. That's not like saying, I swear I got this. How you going to swear you got something? I mean, it's different, but how you going to swear you got something when in essence you ain't make one hair on nobody's head? So how you going to say something to somebody as if you did something when in actuality you had no part in that by saying I swear? How you going to swear to something? The last one. Very last one. (30 to 33). Leviticus 27, 30 to 33. And it says, and all the tithe of the land, whether the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto Yahuwah. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto Yahuwah. He should not, verse 33, he should not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy, and it shall be redeemed. Okay. We know tithes is something that is mentioned of well before Exodus. If we go over to way over to Genesis, chapter 14, we're going to mention a couple of places where it was mentioned before Sinai. So 14, Genesis 14:20. And it says, Genesis 14:20, and blessed be the Most High Yah, which has delivered thine enemies into thy hand, and he gave him tithes of all. And then you go over to Genesis 28:22. So we still in Genesis 28:22. So he was playing tithes back then. 28:22 and 22. And the stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Yah's house, and of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. And that tithes means the tenth. Okay, so they should pay tithes, this is back then, of all their increase. The corn, the trees, the cattle, whatsoever production they had, the benefit of Yah must be honored with the tithes of. It is their tithes, okay? Thus they acknowledge Yah to be the owner. This is important. They acknowledge Yah to be the owner of their land, the giver of its fruits, and themselves to be his tenants, and depended on him. Thus they gave him thanks for the plenty they enjoyed and supplicated his favor and continuance of it. You remember when we talked about how the 6th year, they didn't have to do any, the 6th year, they didn't have to do any sowing. They were blessed for the next 3 years. We read that, when we did chapter 26, I believe it was. So Yah blessed them. So they had faith and believed in him. And we are taught in general to honor Yahuwah with our substance. Proverbs 3:9. Proverbs 3:9 tells us, if you go to Proverbs 3:9, let's see. Proverbs 3:9, it says, honor Yahuwah with thy substance and with the first fruits of all thy increase. So the first fruits of all our increase. And in particular, support, there's, well, let me just go here. Go over to Galatians 6:6. Go to Galatians 6:6. It says, let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teaches in all good things. But then you go to 1 Corinthians 9:11. 1 Corinthians 9:11, and it says, now these are just simple texts first. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, ruach things, it is a great thing if ye shall reap your carnal things. Okay, so if we go to 2 Corinthians 9:7, now we're going to start looking at some stuff. 9:7, and I might have read this verse earlier. 9:7, every man according as he has purpose in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for Yah loveth a cheerful giver. Then I want you to go to Matthew 23:23. Matthew 23:23. And this is going to come up again because this ties into the new covenant, but I want to bring it up now because I think it's important to understand some certain features. Some things I'm not going to mention now. I'm going to wait till we get ready to do the comparison. But you look at verse 23, chapter 23:23, and look what it said. These are Yahushua's words. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithes of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matter of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. So what do you think the other is? The other undone is the tithes. Has to be the tithe. That's the only context that I could put in that verse. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithes and mint. So you pay tithes and all this stuff, but you omitted the main part of everything. That ain't the main thing. You alleviated what's important and just tell you. You omitted the weightier matters of the law. That's an important verse right there. The law is not done away with. G3551. That's critical. That's critical. He's telling them you look at the weightier matter of all this other stuff, but the main thing is you have omitted. You have omitted the weightier matter, the law, the judgment, which in the old covenant was part of the ordinances, mercy and faith. These ought ye to have done. This is so critical. And not to leave the other undone. Your tithe is not to be left undone. I know many say, it's whatever we want to do. Yah loves a cheerful giver. So if you want to give $5, you can give $5. You want to give this, you want to give that. I never talk about money. The only reason we talk about it right now is because it talks about tithes. Other than that, you don't hear me talk about this because this is not my house. This is Yahushua's house. And whatever is on people's hearts, that's Yah works on that. Because see, he's going to keep the sanctuary. He's going to keep this. Yah has blessed us from day one. It's over 5 years now. He has blessed us immensely. And we never had to beg, borrow, or anything like that. He has blessed us to be where we're at right now. And he's blessed us as I'm speaking. So I just want everybody, not just with tithes, with everything, to make sure that Yah is speaking to your heart. I myself, I know there's many that teach that tithes not important now. There's some that teach it is important to give, but it don't have to be 10%. My whole situation with that, though, is that What's the problem with that? If Yah loves a cheerful giver, you think he has a problem with you giving 10, 20, 30, 40%? He don't have a problem with that. Back then in the old covenant, it was 10%. Here he says not to leave that undone. I don't push tithes and offerings on people. I'm just telling you what I see that the scripture says. Whatever Yah moves a person, so let it be. Because the scripture tells us everybody has to work out their salvation. The only thing he has me here doing is a servant of his and giving to you what thus saith the scriptures. That's it. I ain't trying to convict anybody because we can't convict no one of anything. No matter, I can't even convict anybody to keep the Sabbath. We can't convict anybody of anything. That's between you and Yah. But it is my responsibility to warn people and let people know about what thus saith the Lord. He holds me accountable for that. So if I speak the word, if I say, thou shalt not steal, and everybody starts stealing that heard me say you shouldn't steal, their blood ain't on my hands now. It's on theirs. It ain't on mine. Now, if I didn't say anything to them that they didn't know, not only is the blood on their hand, it's on mine too now. So when I tell people this, and the only time I ever say this is when, like now, for example, we're doing 27, and I've only spoke on tithe and offering one other time, just one time, and that was only because somebody kept pressing me to do it. And I felt like I had to go ahead and do it, and I did. That was the only time I did it. Because I don't concern myself about money like that. It doesn't faze me any. Yah is my rock. He's taking care of me. I wouldn't even be retired now if he didn't take care of me. I just want to say this to some of you all on here, and this is for people to hear it as well. This assembly here, our main focus in this assembly is not tithes. It's not tithes. It's not even whether you come or not. That's on you. But the words that's got to come out of the assembly has to be, one, Yah words. Two, we have to speak the truth that comes out of these scriptures here. Sometimes it's like a two-edged sword. It cuts people. Sometimes it doesn't. This assembly here is not going to be held accountable as a whole because it's something we're not doing what thus said the Lord, and we know that we shouldn't be doing it. We're not going down that path. First of all, I can't live with nothing like that. Second of all, it makes no sense for us to spend time serving Yah, but serving him in vain because we really don't want to serve him. We're just doing it just to be an appearance. That don't make sense to me. We're serving him because we really one day want to be with him. I like to hope and pray that everybody that's online, everybody to hear this can understand that one day we all going to be with him. And that's our intent, to be with him, to walk with him. And we want to walk with him here, because if we don't walk with him here first, we won't be able to walk with him up there. I don't know what it's going to take, not with you all here online, but many others that we talk to. I don't know what it's going to get them, family members, friends, people we just talked to. I don't know what it's going to get them to understand. Number one, Yahushua is coming back, guys. He's coming back, and he's coming back with a vengeance, the scripture says. That's one thing. Two, there's a little time left. There's a little time left for the naysayers, for the atheists, for the wicked, for the evil, for those who don't want to do right, for the infidels. For it's still time for them to come around. But the clock is ticking, and it's ticking fast. Very fast. Three, we as an assembly here do not and will not spend time on things that don't have a purpose in uplifting Yahushua. That makes no sense to me either. I don't have to go through some of the things we already, because everybody's online already heard some of that stuff. We ain't doing that. Something came up today. Someone said something to me today, and I may bring it up Sabbath, let you know I'm not going to be diverted. Satan is not going to take us off track. And like I say, Yah holds me responsible. I get up here and start sidetracking and going off on a beaten path and a tangent, and everybody's following that. Or if I scatter the sheep because of that, Yah holds me accountable. Now, if the sheep get scattered because the sheep don't want to hear the truth, that's on them. People walked away from Yahushua. How you walk away from the Almighty? People walked away from him and never came back. So surely they can walk away from us and don't even think about coming back. So my first commitment is to Yah. It's not even to myself. My first commitment is to him. I don't even care about myself. When it comes to Yah, and then the second commitment is to you all, to everybody else. I'm third on the list, basically. Everybody else, family, friends, everybody, that's my commitment. Is to Yah first, and then everybody else, and then I'll follow somewhere after that. That's the way I roll. But I would love to be able to say what Paul said at the end to myself, is that I fought a good fight and I finished the course and has laid up a crown of righteousness, not just for me, but for all those who believe and trust. I would like to be able to say that to myself at the end. If I'm not here when he comes back, I'd still like to be able to say that. But usually when he was saying that, he fought a good fight because he was about ready to leave. Oh. That's really it for chapter 27. I can't believe we actually got through this. I do want to say that for this assembly here, when we, because people donate all the time, people even pay tithes and offering stuff here. So everybody understand, monies that come here, only three things that's done with it. 3. 1, it support the expenditures for spreading the gospel. That's number 1. Number 2, provides for the equipment, material, expenditures, whatever it may be, for maintaining the assembly. No one, not a single person, including myself, received 1 cent out of here. Not one penny out of here. And it's going to stay that way. Even if I went broke, it's going to stay that way. Third thing is to help the needy and the poor and those who need financial assistance, clothing, food, etc., which we have been doing. That's it. The money we get is where it goes. Don't go anywhere else. That's it.
So be it.
So be it. That's it. And it's been that way for over 5 years.
And that's why we're not wanting anything, because as long as we keep Yah first and do what he say do, he gonna take care of it.
And great, I'm gonna say it to you all. I can just shout for hallelujah, be honest with you. He has not, from the day this assembly started till right at this moment, right now talking to you all, we have not begged for anything. We have not had to borrow anything. We had not had to do any of that kind of, we don't owe anybody anything. Everything we have we're free. Yah has blessed this assembly. Yeah, we're going to go through things like they did in the the assembly and the church's assembly in the new covenant. Just because Yah takes care of you don't mean you don't go through things. You still going to go. Paul, man, where's that verse to tell you all the stuff Paul went through? I can't. Somebody, if you can find that verse so you all understand. Y'all know what Paul went through. We ain't immune to anything. That doesn't mean just because he's blessing us that we still won't go through these tests that we got to go through.
That's true.
I'm trying to think. Let me find that verse. There's one in particular verses that I want to share with you all.
Is that the one where he said that I've been
shipwrecked?
That I've had plenty and I've had a little, or
I don't know if that's the same area as that in. That's I don't know if it's the same spot. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Yeah, okay. And this is Paul. He's into his ministry. Start with verse 24. Listen, now this is Paul. We read all the stuff that Paul has done. He wrote all these epistles, and here we are in 2 Corinthians. And he says, starting with verse 24 and verse 11, of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes except once. Thrice, or 3 times, was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day, and I have been in the deep, in journeying often in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watching often, in hunger and thirst, in fasting often, in cold and nakedness, besides those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. I would say he went through some stuff. But that church, that assembly back then, they were blessed. They were still blessed because they grew. They grew. They were still blessed even though they had their problems. That's what those old churches is all about there in Revelation chapter 2 and 3, talking about those 7 churches. That was during those eras. So I just want to let everybody, I cannot give praise and Kadesh for what Yah has given this assembly. And it is made up of everyone that's in this assembly. Everybody that's online, right here now, in this Zoom, others that's not on here, all the participation of people. It ain't been one person. Everybody's played the role. Everybody's contributed. We have not have to beg for anything. Yah has blessed us, and I want him to continue blessing us. To much is given, much is required. If he keeps blessing us with his scriptures, and I believe we have understanding. I don't believe we're confused. I don't think we're in darkness. I believe we are in the light. I do believe we have the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. I don't believe we're wavering. I believe all things we can prove. So I feel confident in this assembly. And Yah has blessed. And I'm telling you right now, I know I keep saying this, but boy, when we did that Feast of Tabernacle and that rainbow, that did it for me with these feasts. It's a wrap. I don't care what nobody says. It's a wrap. And can't nobody tell me nothing about them feasts. As far as not keeping them, can't nobody tell me nothing about that, Grady. I'm not even hearing it. That's like somebody coming to me and telling me y'all don't exist. I ain't trying to hear that. I'm gonna take them right to Titus 3:9. I'm not going to entertain foolishness. And I hope everybody is doing. I hope everybody understands everything. Are there anybody that still need us to talk about some more things dealing with these chapters? Not just 27, any of these chapters. Is there anything else that we need clarification on or something, or you feel like you want to get more elaborate with it if we can, or whatever it may be? But we actually went through this whole Leviticus.
I'd just like to say that last Matthew 23:23
Yes.
should solve everything about us not about tithing not be talking about that's old covenant. That wipes that out completely.
To me, it does.
For me too.
It was his words. It was Yahushua's words. He
Yep.
said it.
When he said you ought to do them weightier things and not omit the other, that's it.
He says not. He said we. And another thing that's in there that was just so interesting is that he mentioned about the weightier. We should be work doing the weightier of the law. He said of the law. He didn't leave law out.
Right.
He already told us he didn't come to destroy it.
That's right.
So, I don't know. To me, it's clear. But sometimes people need more information, and I don't know what more we need to get, but
And sometimes people just don't want to do it.
that too. But I do want people to be convinced. I want people to be clear and have an understanding and really be convicted. You know, only Yah can convict us. None of us can convict anybody. You know, you had to be convicted by his word, by him. And yeah, we just think, guys, we got a lot more studying to do. There's a lot more stuff to do in the scriptures. I just love this. Shoot, we might mess around that later on down through the years. Depending on if y'all see fit, take another book and go through it like this. This one had more meaning to it because we connecting it with the law and with the new covenant, though. So it was a purpose, the reason why we did it now. So anybody, we've been doing this for like 2 weeks, haven't we? It seemed like it's been 2 months. But I think we've only been doing this for a couple of weeks, right?
We started around the feast?
Yeah, when was the feast?
I think we started at Passover?
That was the end of March, right? No, I mean end of
March 14th.
huh?
We started like March 14th, I believe. The day of Passover.
So it's been 2 weeks then.
Right.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's been basically about 2 weeks. So it just seemed like it's been longer than that. So well anyway, if we don't have anything else, we can go ahead and have a closing prayer. I thank you all for being on. You guys are very dedicated, I tell you. I thank you all for being on.
I thank you for teaching us.
Well, y'all is the teacher. I'm just a mouthpiece.
Yeah, but we need to hear somebody.
I need to hear somebody. Talk to me. But yeah, this is wonderful, guys. I appreciate you all, and I'm gonna go ahead and have prayer. Father in heaven, we come before you again this day. We thank you for your love and your grace and your mercy, and Father, we ask that as we continue to study your word, that you would enlighten our hearts and minds through everything that we are studying, so that there be no confusion, there be no misunderstandings, none of that kind of stuff that would cause us to separate because of just different beliefs. We all believe who you are. We all believe that you came, Yahushua. We all believe that one day you're coming back. We all believe that we all have to get our lives together and work toward salvation. You went through all the trouble coming here and dying for each and last one of us. I don't know why it's so complicated for us to choose who we're going to serve. How long we're going to stay halt between two opinions. Whom we're going to serve, you or anything else. How long? When would a decision in the mindset of peoples be focused on heavenly things and not on earthly things? See, because when that happens, then joy will come to the heart more than what is coming to the hearts now. They don't know because they ain't tasted it yet. So we ask that you would be with all of us. Forgive us of our sins. Teach us your will. Give us the understanding and wisdom we need to make it day by day. Help us to know the difference between right and wrong. Keep us on the gospel of the meat of your word. We give you all the praise in your son, Yahushua HaMashiach's name. We do pray. So be it.
So be it.
Amen.
Man, you guys have a wonderful evening, wonderful night.
Amen.
Amen.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. This was great. Guys, have a good evening.
Y'all
Thank
have a
you.
blessed evening. Have a blessed evening. And I think you all will know, but I think I don't know if we're going to start this Friday or wait till Sabbath. We definitely should be able to finish this before Sabbath evening. I just don't know yet, depending on how much content is going to be, whether we'll start the rest of the rest as comparing the old to the new. If we will start Friday evening or not. We may start Friday evening. If not, then that means Sabbath morning and Sabbath afternoon, we should be able to finish this. So we'll see how that goes. And if I do, I will let you all know in advance. You know, like Thursday or something, whether we're going to meet Friday. If you don't hear anything from me, that means everything's coming Sabbath.
You know, I was thinking, I don't know what everybody thinks about this, but if we do it on Sabbath, maybe do it a little closer to sunset, since we'll all be kind of studying and relaxing anyway. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, a little later than 6:30.
Say that again.
Well, I was thinking like on Sabbath, on Friday evening. Like if we did study, instead of doing it at 6:30, maybe a little later, since it's the Sabbath anyway, we're gonna, usually we're at home in scripture or, kind of studying and praying, anyway.
Are you
If maybe
saying
the
later on
teaching
Friday?
getting a little closer to sunset would be convenient. I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there.
So you mean instead of 6:30 on Friday, going to Sabbath, you saying like 8 o'clock or something? Is that what you're saying?
Or maybe like 7 or 7:30. I don't know. I just threw it out there. I don't, it's just whatever you gotta think.
Oh, yeah, like bringing the Sabbath together.
Oh, you want to bring it in
Right.
together? Okay, we can do that too. But I was just.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking, a little closer time for sunset. Since we'd be studying anyway, that maybe.
But how about if we did it at 6:30 and it still carry us into the Sabbath? Like the day would carry into, like the day was, if we started this, if the day was a Sabbath, we would have started this on Friday, right?
Well, true. Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you're saying then. So, well, maybe I just go ahead and do it anyway. Maybe we just go ahead and do it, cause I know we can get an hour in.
Oh, easily.
Easily.
Yeah.
So okay, so how about if we just do 7 o'clock then? We can do that's if we need Friday, okay? But maybe we need to do Friday anyway, just to come into Sabbath together.
Yeah.
How about that? We'll do Friday anyway, even if it's not this, we'll do something. I think
That sounds good.
It's gonna be this though. Is
Okay.
that okay? Yeah, 7 o'clock. Say 7 o'clock Friday, because it'll still be Friday, and then we'll definitely be going into the sunset. You guys don't have to worry about that.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Okay, that sounds good, Jacqueline. That sounds good. We'll do that. Yeah, yeah. All right, very good. You all have yourself a blessed evening.
All right. Everybody be blessed.
Yeah.
To everyone.
Thank
Good night.
you too.
Yeah.
Good night.